Hey gamers, welcome to another episode of Bonus XP. Today we are going to talk about The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. And if you notice, this time I have my adorable husband Scott with us. Usually it would be Jason here, but Jason's unavailable right now. So Scott, welcome back. I think the last time you were here we did Borderlands.
Yes, we did Tiny Tina.
Tina.
Yeah, and I am excited to be back, just generally speaking, but also to be talking about Zelda.
Right. I mean, obviously we've talked before on our Legends of Zelda episode in season 2 about like how Legends of Zelda has a meaning for us, but this isn't your first Zelda. How many Zeldas have you beaten now? Because you just recently played through this.
Yes, I just recently beat it. So I think this was my third Zelda that I beat from start to finish. I've played Link's Awakening twice, but I only beat it once. Played and beat.
Did you play it twice?
Yeah, I played it and it almost got to the end, and then I like much later played it again from start to finish.
Oh, weird. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember that because I have my little Link's Awakening amiibo on my desk that I can see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got it. Yes. So that's yes. So then Link Between Worlds, which I played on the 3DS.
That was your very first one that you beat.
Yes, many moons ago as part of our marriage contract, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah. Well, so if you are just tuning into us fresh, you may not know that I'm a salty hoe and I have pretty high standards.
To say the least.
If you want to marry this. So, part of our marriage requirement for me, aside from the usual stuff, was, hey, you need to beat a Final Fantasy and you need to beat a Legends of Zelda. And technically, and I say this every time, we're not actually married, even though we're married, because you have beaten the Legends of Zelda, because A Link Between Worlds is the first one, but you still have not beaten a Final Fantasy yet. So
that is true, and I have offered, but I also have never really followed through with the offer. So this is my public statement that I will.
Story of our marriage, right there. What I want to talk about first, with the ones that you've played, and then I'll kind of chime in with my 2 cents, since I played like pretty much every Zelda there is. How did this one stack up to the other ones that you've played? And I know that you're mostly a like top-down Zelda person. You haven't really broken into the 3D Zeldas too much. So how did this one stick up for you?
Yeah, because did we play Twilight Princess together?
Technically, Twilight Princess was the first one you ever played, but I think we made it like through the first dungeon, and you really just didn't play many games then. So that was a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I honestly don't even remember anything about it.
When an HD remaster comes out, guess what?
Yeah, then that's fine. That's fine.
Merry birthday, happy Christmas.
Yes, and then I tried to play Breath of the Wild, but it was much too open world for me. And
it was around the same time too. We were doing that.
Yeah, so I was like, here, play Breath of the Wild with me, and then you ended up just taking over more so than I was playing. So then we just stopped. So anyway,
I'm pretty sure I went complete handheld mode at that point.
Yeah,
just don't worry about it. We're good.
Yeah, so slightly. So I say that because, it's not that I haven't tried the 3D Zeldas, but yeah, mostly top down. So as far as how the Minish Cap stacked up to the other ones, I liked it a lot better than the other ones. I mean, Link's Awakening was really fun, but the world just felt a lot smaller. I mean, the world was a lot smaller.
Yes.
And I to the point where I wouldn't even call it a world. You were just like in one little area, and you just kept going around the same areas and unlocking tiny new little sections, which is not bad. But I think in Minish Cap, the way it was broken up was just a lot. There was a lot more diversity in the landscapes as we slowly unlocked different areas. So that was just a lot more fun to me and more engaging versus literally just going around the same parts of the map 100 times, back and forth.
I mean, there definitely was the back and forth in this one too, but I would say the way they broke it up was the shrinking mechanic, where you got to go to a lot of different places and see it from different angles. And I remember when you were playing this time, because it had been a little while for me. I watched most of your playthrough, but I hadn't played it since 2006 maybe. It was a really long time ago.
Is that when it came out?
Ish. It might have come out right before that. I played it I just bought myself a DS, but it's a Game Boy Advance game. It was toward the end of there. It just happened to be one of the first games I got while I picked up my DS. But the ability to go back to some places, even like the pub, and you're on the rafters and you're shrunk, and you get to see like the business below as you're a tiny Minish on the rafters, like little details like that completely change the perspective. The world feels a lot more lived in because you have like the Minish city, you have the main city, but not only do you have the main city, like surrounding it, you know, you have the Lon Lon Ranch, and you have farm workers here and there. You have a bunch of different places that you can go to. Like you said, it didn't really feel like it technically is a smaller map, but it didn't feel like it because it didn't feel flat. Like this area is this dungeon, this area is this dungeon. No, it was like this is a world. Like it felt like a world.
Yeah, no, it really did. And to your point, I think, yes, being able to shrink down and go back, you know, as Minish or Picori gave it that different perspective. Whereas, you know, in Link's Awakening specifically, it was constantly going back to the same places and the same people were in the same spots. And it was just like kind of like the same thing over and over again, which again is not bad because Link's Awakening was still super fun. But yeah, it was like this time it was, like sometimes the farm workers were there and sometimes they weren't. Sometimes the construction workers were blocking the roads and sometimes they weren't. And then you were going back and, you know, sure, like unlocking new rooms, but also unlocking just entirely different perspectives and areas that it was just really fun and really engaging.
And I think, like, for people that haven't really touched into any of these Zelda games before, we're not crapping on Link's Awakening. Like, Link's Awakening definitely walked so Minish Cap could run, because Link's Awakening, though you played the Switch version, was the first handheld Legends of Zeldas, and just one of the first Legends of Zeldas. You know, it came out on the original Game Boy, so it was forever ago. And there are a few things that feel very archaic to that game, even with the remaster. But that's okay because it's still a really good game. It didn't have the ability to evolve like Minish Cap did, because Minish Cap came in, like, I think right after Wind Waker. So you can see me conducting, which, I mean, when you play Wind Waker, you'll understand that. But yeah, so it makes sense. There was a lot of time to grow since then. Let's get into the nitties and the gritties. What did you like about Wind Waker? What did you like about Minish Cap? Like, what was it that stood out for you? It's like, this made this experience fun for me.
Yeah, so there actually were a lot of different things, which, as you said, like, I don't game a ton because ADHD, but also a million things going on, but you know, different reasons. So I kind of really do have to be engaged, and Minish Cap was just really engaging in a lot of different ways. I know that you always say that, you know, it being cute is not a good enough answer, but in this one, it was so cute, and that drew me in. And because it was enchanting and exciting, and like the perspective and the art style, like I think after playing this, like this is like probably my favorite art style of game. I think like the right level of detail, it still like leaves a lot up to the imagination. It's still really cute. Anyway,
I think that is okay. First of all, for cuteness, it's not that I say that can't be the reason.
I know.
That just a reason that just can't be the reason.
Right.
But you're right. You're coming in at a time when there's a lot more polish to Legends of Zelda games, so we're seeing that level of detail, and it's kind of weird to think about because newer Legends of Zeldas don't really have that polished look, because they're trying to do so much by being open world games, and the early Legends of Zeldas, even through the N64, didn't really have like too much of a stylistic polish because, you know, we were talking about like large polygons. But then you jump to Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Minish Cap, and all of a sudden we're seeing games that have three very distinct styles that work very, very well. And like, you're right, like there's just something very appealing about these like central games in this series, because I feel like that's when they really hit their niche of, we're not just a puzzle game, we're not just an adventure game, we're also like, we have this artsy cutesy side. So yeah, I think absolutely.
And it, like, I think too, like it being cute and that like that art style really played into the like the whimsy of like the Picori people, like, and the fact that you could shrink down and explore the land differently. I think the art style really, really played into that. And
oh yeah, so seeing some things to scale, right? Like how big other objects were around you, especially when you get to the Picori city, and most of their houses and whatnot are built out of like real life things. I think that is very exciting to see.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, like you were saying, like going up into the rafters and seeing things below, and just it was just really fun. So the cute part we'll get the cute part out of the way. I mean, you mentioned puzzles a second ago too. Like, I freaking love puzzles in games, and the puzzles in Minish Cap were just so fun. I think they did a really good job of each dungeon had like provided just different kinds of puzzles using the different like tools and equipment you got along the way. Yeah. And that just kept it really engaging and really fun. And they also too it was almost like a lot of going in and out. Like they left the dungeon was the whole environment. It wasn't just like the actual dungeon, which I also thought was fun, and I'm sure like a million other games do that. But
let's talk about that real quick, because I think that's an important thing to say. Where I think in a lot of Legends of Zeldas, you go to a temple, and the temple is a temple. Like, it is like, oh, this is a place that we are going that has been constructed for this. But in Minish Cap, I think it felt like kind of what you're saying is it felt a lot more natural and ingrained to the worlds. Which I thought was pretty cool, and even more so that like all of the early bosses, maybe aside from like the last one, are just regular monsters that you'd see in like later games, but they're like blown up to a larger scale. So like, again, it doesn't feel like that, oh, here we have this like hugely crazy fantastical design dungeon, we have like this whimsical, this dungeon's basically in a boot, or this dungeon is in like a little garden. So I think like that's a really good observation.
Yeah, I think, well, and two, like one of the other things that I really liked about it too is like as you unlocked more parts of the map, each part of the map was like a different kind of environment. So that gave it a lot of different, like I was saying earlier, like it gave it, a lot of diversity in going to the different areas of the map, as opposed to like, again, Link's Awakening, where it was just kind of like you were in that world. But all the the different areas of the map, like Lon Lon Ranch, the mountains, the Minish Woods, the Palace of Winds when you're up in the sky, the castle, the caves, like the big mountain that you were scaling. Like each time you unlocked a new area of the map, it was like different weather, it was different terrain. Obviously there were different kinds of monsters, but it was like the puzzle of that area, or like the dungeon of that area, was the whole area, and not just like you were saying, not just going into a temple and you're like, okay, I'm in the temple now, so I'm doing this thing. Like,
it's not like I need to find out how to hit this switch. It's like I need to find out how to navigate through this entire area. So that was really fun, and kept me like really engaged and really excited about it, because it wasn't like, okay, I'm in this new part of the map that's the same as the last part. It's just a new part of it, so now I just have to trudge through it. It was kind of like, oh, like I'm in this spooky blue green like fantastic woods now, or oh, I'm on the side of a mountain and I'm climbing up and there are boulders falling down, and again, it's not even in the dungeon, it's just like I'm just in this area of the map. So that was really fun. I'm excited for you to go back, because at the time of us recording, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages just came out, and those were probably the only two Legends of Zeldas I didn't get to play as a kid, because I didn't have the money for like, I was like either Pokemon or Legends of Zelda, probably gonna pick a Pokemon. But those were the ones that are in between these in terms of like the handheld Zeldas. So some of the things that you're saying, like, I know we've seen before, and it's okay that you haven't seen them before, but I'm excited for you to like go a step back now and see like, okay, this is how we got from Link's Awakening to Minish Cap, and focusing on like these games in between. How about things like the items or the combat or the, what were they called? The kinstones?
The kinstones? Yeah, the kinstones were really fun to find. I think there was a point where you were like, oh, have you been matching up the kinstones.
Have you been? So okay, it is notorious, and like this is when it's hard being a gamer husband, because obviously you want your partner to succeed in what they do. And like I can understand gaming mechanics, not that Scott can't, but sometimes he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I just want to play the game. But there are some games where if you're not doing some of the mechanics, like you are missing out on some major things. And he hit a hard wall where it was like, why is this game so effing hard? And it's because you weren't fusing these kinstones.
Yeah, you were like, oh well, I think you should probably fuse with whoever. And I was like,
I was literally like, oh, you're dying a lot? Well, you can just get a fairy and put it in a bottle. And you're like, I don't have any bottles. And I was like, you're at the 3rd dungeon. How do you not have a single bottle yet? And then we looked up, like, most of the bottles come from confusing. So, or we call them the butthole walls, where there were walls in every, like, little cave that you were supposed to fuse Kinseed. And then a Goron would go and punch his way through the wall. Like, you would, like, If you weren't doing it, you wouldn't have known that that's what you were supposed to do at those points. So it's just funny. It's
no. Once I figured that out, it was fun. It was almost like the game almost made it a little too easy. In that there were just like an abundance of kinstones, and there were only really like 5 or 6 that you actually fused. So maybe it's just because by the time I realized I needed to be fusing with that, I just had like an abundance of them.
That right there is the answer.
So it wasn't like I had to like go find the right one. Like I always just had a ton of whatever one that I needed to match up with people.
From like person who's played a lot of games where you go into towns and you don't tend to re-interact with folk in the villages, or you don't interact with anyone in the first place because you know that they're just like would tell you to go somewhere, but you probably already went there. It was a nice mechanic to have these people still viable in a world where it's like, oh, now that I know that I can do this, I'm gonna go back and talk to the mayor or this random person who's in the streets, and we're gonna fuse these stones together, and it's gonna unlock a chest somewhere else, and it might be a lot of money, or it might be a heart piece, or it might be like whatever. I thought that was really great. I know it probably has a little bit of some tedium to it, but like it's still fun. Like it still has a funness to it.
Yeah. So that was really fun.
Let's talk about some of the things that weren't cutting it for you. What were some things about this game? And again, like this could just be your specific instance with this game, or overall as like a gamer, these are things that don't fly as well for you.
I think honestly, speaking of kinstones and running around and talking to people, I think there were a couple points where, especially for me, like because I don't have a very good memory, or because there were just a lot of people to talk to, there were a couple points where I got stuck just because it was like not clear that I needed to go speak to this random person in this random place with a kinstone that would then unlock this one thing in this random other place that I would have to go and then find. Like it just felt
like main quest wise, or was that just like side content?
It was main quest side.
Yeah, I know there was that one door that you didn't know that you were supposed to go and confuse with. Which kind of like that was a roadblock for you. Remember you getting very stuck there?
Yeah, it was like that, and like getting the like more heart pieces and getting, like you said, like the bottles. Yeah, there were a couple points where I needed to shrink down, but I couldn't get to where I needed to go because I hadn't like fused with somebody and unlocked something yet. And which I mean I know is fine, and I know that you and I have talked about this before as I like play games through it. Like they play games like this where part of that is just you just go and explore, like Pokemon. Like I would, as a kid, I would get stuck with Pokemon too, right? Because I just needed to have some like one random conversation with one random person in a town that I was at that I must have missed or didn't go back to. And I know that that's part of it, is that you should be going and exploring and all that stuff. But as somebody who needs to like stay engaged, like that kind of those moments, I was like, how was I supposed to know this?
Well, that is the hard thing about playing older games too, right? Like that is an old game design, where newer games would be like, you go into your menu and you'd have a little tab in the corner and say, go talk to this bitch. But like older games didn't have that. So yeah, in order to get through gate, like you would have to go and talk to a specific person in order to get to the next section. But I mean, like, yeah, I think maybe this is where a little bit of your ADHD brain, like I just want to enjoy the world and keep playing, gets in the way a little bit, because typically in games they're like, go talk to that guy now. But I feel like for you, you're like, I don't remember who that guy is, so I'm just gonna figure it out myself. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you need to know who that guy is.
Yeah, but I know who that guy is. I think, yeah, and I mean, also to be fair, the Minish Cap was very helpful. Like I could ask him for like a general hint at any time, and that helped me a lot too, because it would just give me like a vague enough, you know, hint for me to go, oh yeah,
Definitely
I remember now talking to this
one
one
of the
person over here.
One of the better guides in the Legends of Zelda games. I think like this is maybe the third or fourth game to have a guide at this point. And there were a few times where he just straight up roasts you or says something super comical. And like I really appreciate that, because the games before that, the guides were a lot more annoying. So in the future games, like it's hit or miss. We have some with good personalities and some not. So I think it was really cool to have this like hat that's literally talking shit about you.
Yeah, like, oh my god, I can't believe we're waiting. Like, I cannot believe. Yes, it was great.
One thing I want to point out real quick, and I noticed this also because I had to take over for you a few times just because you were a little stuck on the difficulty. This is a harder Legends of Zelda in terms of the regular enemies. I wouldn't say the bosses were necessarily too challenging. You got through them for the most part on your own. But specifically, there were these night enemies that were very frustrating because if you hadn't been confusing and getting all of your like special link abilities, it is just impossible to find a strategy to fight them. Like these knights appear in several other games, but I feel like they're not that difficult to the point where you're like literally like, no, you just keep swiping and pray that you hit them. And like I find that very like a poor choice gaming, not like mechanic but like obstacle, where yeah, of course if you find extra stuff it should be helpful, but you should still be pretty capable or use your other items to get through some of these things. And there were some regular enemies that like nothing was helping of the core stuff that they gave you, and I was like, that's a pretty poor choice there.
Yeah, I think that was one too. I think yes, that was also hard about it. But I think too, even with the swordsman that you could find in the game to fuse with or like train with, that would then like teach you your next sword skill. That was not very clear, so at least it wasn't to me. So there was a point where like, oh, like, you know, have you tried charging up your sword yet? And I'm like, oh, I haven't gotten that yet. And you're like,
the fuck?
Yeah, you're like, well, have you talked to these guys? And have you done this?
So I'm sure some of you know this from watching us play Super Mario RPG, if you've seen this, where for me, you can just see me like panicking as we're playing, because like I have that game down to a T and Scott's playing it all fresh and he's like, wait, how do I do this? Wait, I'm supposed to press a button before they attack me? Oh, my character.
Oops, too late. I'm done.
Too late.
Too late. I'm dead.
So yeah, it is wonderful when your partner plays the games that you play, but you know, you really have to test your patience there. Is there anything else that you want to say about Minish Cap, or what's next in the Legends of Zelda scope for you? Where are we going next? Because I know like that it's nice to be on this, like, I have a series I identify with, and obviously we've done a couple of the Legends of Zelda games on bonus XP now. We'll keep them coming, of course, as we get through them. But what's next for you on Legends of Zelda?
Honestly, that's really a question for you, because I don't I don't know.
It's gonna be Oracle Seasons and Oracle of Ages. Right now, every time we go to a game store right now, if they had Wind Waker, I'd be like, next game instantly, because I know you love whimsy and you're playing Kirby the Forgotten Lands right now and you're super loving that, and just like it's just a nice beautiful game, not too challenging, and just a lot of nice sights to see and cuteness and whatnot. And I think Wind Waker is that game. It's still like it's a great game, but like it really has that style that you'll appreciate too. But I think for now, yeah, I think you really love the top-down Legends of Zeldas. So I think Oracles of Season Ages you'll really appreciate too.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I love the style of all of the Zelda games that I played. I love that they're not really that serious, and there's like always comedy and puzzles in them, and I just really love them. So yeah, I'm just like ready for the next one.
Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll put it up as a poll as what is the next Zelda Scott should play. That's a good idea. But I think that about wraps up our conversation on Legends of Zelda: The Minish Cap. We would like to thank you all as our Patreon supporters, our viewers, our listeners for making all this possible. We love it when you consume our content. We love it when you join the conversation with us, which you can do over on our Instagram, our Discord, our not Twitter anymore, our thing that replaced Twitter at Hey RPGaymer. Head on over there, join the conversation. We have a lot of great conversations about game on all of those, but I think our Discord is probably where it pops off the most.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, and if you know people too, like we've seen a lot of growth in that Discord community lately, and it's been so fun. So like if you know other gamers with a Y, or gamers with a Y, like invite them in, because we're having a lot of fun over there on that Discord. Even me, I'm even involved. I'm even having fun in the Discord. So,
and as Scott said, like with the Y or without the Y, you don't have to be on the queer spectrum in order to get along with us. Like, we're really just a bunch of people who love to be friends and talk games. Like, it really just comes down to that. But we want to thank you for listening. Now go out there and get gaming.